My name is Laird Klingler. I'm a librarian with the Cornish Historical Society. The date is February 6, 2017, and we're at the town office, the second floor, where the Society has mounted an exhibit. To begin with, we'd like to thank the Select Board, Dale Lawrence, Scott Baker, and John Hammond, for allocating this space to us. Now, we in essence, have three collections. We started off at the meeting house, in the flat. That's the Society really started around the time of the bicentennial, and we had a collection there in the room. When we moved from there to what was the former town office on School Street, we left behind items there. We just didn't have the space, for everything. And pretty much over the years, that really became a storage area. But recently, we have revived that, and we have now an exhibit there. We don't have regular hours, but we would be glad to open that at any time upon request. The collection on School Street that's really our headquarters, and there we have our books, our vertical files, our artworks, and our artifacts. The focus there pretty much is on history, past history, the Cornish colony, and art. When we had the opportunity to expand and put up an exhibit here, we wanted to have a different focus to supplement what we have, on School Street. And so we focused here on more current history, on items that people presently living in Cornish could relate to. So let's start. Now, this sign, "Welcome to Cornish," for years greeted people. It was on 12A as you leave Claremont, going into Cornish. Welcome people. And we like to think it welcomed people in the past outside, and it welcomes people here inside. From outside use, the sign really had worn down. The paint had peeled, and it was falling apart. We found it in the Cornish garage. Steve Bobbin supervised the reconstruction of this. He had to strip the paint and do a whole new framework around the outside. And there was a painting in the middle of it, of the bridge. We couldn't recreate that because the paint had peeled, so I just simply filled in the colors there. Now, as we go up to the wall here, there are two things I'd like to start with here. This is the farm of William Child in Cornish. Now, people know Child for his history of Cornish, and it covers the Cornish history up to about 1910. This is his farm and home in the background. It's presently where Judith Kaufman and Dennis Demers live, on Center Road. It's the house with the pink door. Now, we know Child as an historian, but Child was also, and his son, a great farmer. Now, Child is standing in the middle of the fields, and above that, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that, that's a broadside for all the items that he and his son could sell from the Cornish Flat Nursery. Here, Child is standing in the field. Now, today, that is all wetlands. But you can see at the time, it was utilized for an agricultural setting. Now, the next one we'd like to focus on, it was loaned to us by Colleen O'Neill from her personal collection. It shows the farm on Lang Road. You all know about the restoration she did for the barn on Lang Road, and the road and the farm takes its name from an Albion Lang, who came to Cornish in 1905. He made his money, he's from Toledo, Ohio, made his money in the streetcar business, and he purchased this from the Chapman family. Now, across the meadow, from the barn setting, going north, he built a mansion. It was called the Highlands. It must have been a magnificent building. He died, I should have mentioned that the reason he came to Cornish was that his wife's brother was Admiral Folger from the Folger home on Platte Road. But he built this mansion, this magnificent mansion. Unfortunately, it did not survive long after he died. He died in the late 30s. It was sold to a man not from the Upper Valley. In 1945, the house burned. There was strong evidence that it was burned on purpose to collect insurance by this individual. Although in court he was acquitted. I have noticed a tendency in the Upper Valley that when something goes wrong, blame is placed on the downstaters or the flatlanders. In this case, that tendency was probably correct. I won't tell you where the man came from, but if you know where I was born and raised, you'll be pretty close. Now, let's move over here to this handsome cabinet was built by Edward Donat. He made a lot of furniture for the Cornish colony. It was given to the society by a Marion Trepanier, and there's a picture of her with Virginia Colby right here. These are pictures of Ballock's Crossing, the train stop now where the Hammond family is. When Jim Barker for the Conservation Commission wanted to honor Bill Lipfer for his contributions, he borrowed these, had the pictures scanned and framed and presented them to Bill. Now, this is live, and as I'm going along, I realized I had forgotten something. What I mentioned about the Highlands, if you want to see a picture of what the Lang estate, the Lang building, the mansion was, in Footprints of the Past, there is a drawing, of the Highlands. You can really get a feel for what it was like. Footprints, of course, was co-authored by Virginia Colby and Jim Atkinson, our former presidents. Moving along here, the select board put this up. After Bernice Johnson died, there was an article in the paper about her. She did so much for Cornish. They took the article, framed it, and put it here. Now we're moving to what is the stage, and I think we should pause a little and just talk about the history of this building. It was constructed in the 1840s, and for many years it was the home. It was a church, first for the Methodists and then for the Unitarians. Later in the 19th century, the Grange started. The farmers' organization started in Cornish. It was 1874, and for a long time, the Grange rented space here from the Unitarians, and then they purchased the building. I think they paid about $400 for it. Well, in time, just as the Unitarian membership dwindled, so did the Grange. And then later, they deeded this to the town, and in 1995, the town office moved from 26 School Street over to this location. Moving to the right of the stage, we have pictures here of some of the old schoolhouses. These are the one-room schoolhouses. I won't go over all of them. I do have we have a finding guide, and we'll show you that, where all the pictures would be described. You can see probably right away, that's the flat school, the school in the flat, the Masonic Temple. And then also, for example, there's a picture of the Center School, present home of the Freelands on Center Road. Now over here, this is something that affectionately referred to as the John Hammond Jersey cow. This painting of the Jersey was here when the Grange occupied the building, and John felt it would be appropriate to have something from the Grange, still here. So this painting has survived. This is the second cabinet, and as with the first, this was the one we saw before, this was over at the Meeting House. Bill Caterino, our treasurer, suggested that we move it here so people could see it. The Meeting House is not always open. We will open it upon request, but here it's available anytime the town office is opened. This is particularly interesting here. With the end of the one-room schoolhouses, we had the central school created, and there was a dedication of that school in 1954. Stuart Hodgman, our president now, his father, Herbert, was the master of ceremonies, at that dedication, and he is listed on the back of that program. Now, against this wall, these are pictures give you a feeling for old pictures of the flat. This is, I want to point this one out. This is a picture of what was the Hampshire Inn. And you can see it's quite large. It had, I believe, 27 rooms. It's a reflection, it shows the commercial activity at the time. Unfortunately, it did burn in 1927. On a filming of the one old home day that we have on YouTube, a woman who lived here in the past came to visit, and she recalls, seeing the fire in 1927. As we move down here, this is a plaque given by the Postal Service when they had a commemorative stamp for the Cornish-Windsor Bridge. Beneath this, there are some models done from wood that was taken from the bridge, after the restoration. Now, there is a sign down here, longest covered bridge in the United States. I don't believe that's true. I think there is a longer bridge in Ohio, but I think it's probably the longest two-span bridge. But regardless of length, I think the Cornish-Windsor Bridge is probably the most beautiful bridge in the country with that background of Mount Ascutney. More photographs here of Cornish Homes, Northcote, Platt, old picture of Harlackington, Grace Bulkley's home. Now, moving to the far wall, the picture above, this is the famous glass house that belonged to the Barretts on Dingleton Hill. And actually, it shows up being constructed. Japanese workmen. The glass would be all around. Now, Robert Barrett was an interesting man. He came from a very wealthy family that made money in the Chicago area for roofing and road materials. He traveled the world. Not quite certain why he came to Cornish, but maybe it was the Cornish colony that attracted him. He was a benefactor in the community. He did a lot for educational opportunities for the children, and he gave money to the library to hire a librarian, and he personally did hire a woman, Catherine Ellis, who came here from Iowa. She was a Vassar graduate, spoke 7 languages, a very intelligent woman. She came, they fell in love, and they got married. Now, Barrett was something of an eccentric person. When they got married, he was living in a teepee. Well, that really was not a suitable living arrangement for a Vassar graduate, and so they decided to build this home. Now, for interesting background on this, there's an interview that Bernice Johnson conducted with Rose Nelson and her family. And during the interview, there's a discussion of the Barretts. They knew the Barretts. So if you want to know more about the Barretts, take a look at that. It's on YouTube. Okay. Now, the picture below This is one of my favorites, maybe because it's so different from any of the others we have. This is Buck Farrington. He was the gamekeeper at Corbin Park, and I think that's probably a bobcat. It looks as if he's trapped it. The bobcats were a problem at Corbin Park because they would attack young deer, and also, the piglets were there. He was at Corbin Park probably from the years at the end of World War I through World War II. And his wife, Minnie, was the cook, at Corbin Park. This information was given to us by Frank Hawkins and Albert Leahy, who knew of Buck Farrington. Okay. Now, if we move here, this is, if we could get in close, this is a picture of what the present town office used to look like with the steeple, when it was a church. The Grange found out that the steeple had deteriorated and they didn't have the money to repair it, so they took it down. But you can see this looks like the town office here, but there is not a steeple. Okay. Against the wall, more pictures here. We have what we call a public safety collection. At the top there, that's the fire department. There's a picture there of Ed Lawrence, Dale Lawrence's father. Beneath that, the highway crew, former road agents, Harold Morse, Tom Spaulding. And if you look closely, you'll see a young Jim Fitch. To the right of that, we have those are pictures from the first aid squad that does so much in our community. This was a clock restoration project that happened for the meeting house in the flat. Now, here at the bottom, you'll recognize George Edson with his ever-present railroad engineer's hat. But when the clock tower was repaired, people took these pictures. Now, I'd like to step back, and we're going to get some pictures here of starting with the blacksmiths. This was a display that Steve Bobbin put up for the Cornish Fair. He collected the material and put it on the board there, and it won first prize, at the fair. Now, we have a number of notebooks here. The finding guide I mentioned before is here. We have a photographic album of old Cornish homes and buildings. We list the present owner and the address. We also have photographs of Cornish homes taken by Bill Palmer's brother that was used in a display at St. Gaudens on the Dublin and Cornish art colonies. We thank Henry Duffy for providing us with those pictures. We have an interview there with Helen Lovell, holder of the Boston Post cane. We also have photographs taken by Elmer Wood Bartlett, a noted artist who lived at the bottom of Dingleton Hill. These photos were on glass slides. Chester and Nancy Newbold took the glass slides, transformed them into photographs, and donated them to the Cornish Historical Society. As we move down here, the Cornish Fair, of course, is very important in our community. These are old posters, that we found. I don't see these type of posters anymore. I wonder whether they just don't do them, but these are from the past here. To the right, these are photocopies of, this is pretty well known, of an article that appeared in 1947 in the Collier's magazine. And it depicts a town meeting. At that time, it was held in the town hall. And the theme of this is that American democracy in its purest form, where local people make decisions, about their community. Over to the right, this is a glass case that we brought over from the meeting house. In that, this is a violin that was made by Thomas Pickering. It's made from wood, again taken from the bridge for the restoration. There's also a school bell. This belonged to the school teacher, Marjorie Kidder, who taught at the center school, on Center Road. She would bring that to bring the children in. These are various photo albums here with pictures, relating to people in the community. And on the top, of that stand, there were two creameries here, in Cornish. One was the Cornish Creamery, which is located now where Henry Homeyer lives, and this was the Hillside Creamery. Unfortunately, this burned, but this, as you come across the bridge in the Cornish, it was right up on the knoll there. It's on the land now belonging to Billy Monette. Okay. Now, for the final thing I'd like to mention, this is an exhibit for Liggett's shampoo and soap. Originally, this was in the Powers General Store, and there was a display there. When the store closed, Jim and Diane Liggett gave this to the Historical Society. It was over at the meeting house, and it was there for a long time. When we had the display set up here, we moved it from the meeting house so people could look at it and see. Now, for the tour, pretty much just showed you highlights. We hope that people will come and spend more time, looking through the items, and do use the finding guide. That will give you more information about them. Well, thank you. Matt Wood has done the filming, and he's going to upload this film, and it will be available on YouTube, and I'll make a note and connect Cornish about its availability. So thank you for taking the tour with me, and we hope to see you here soon. Thank you.